afternoon. These past couple weeks, there's been heavy talk about drilling for natural gas in our hometown of Coppell.
Yes, and today Sarah went on the scene to report from the area. Sarah?
Hi, I'm here reporting live at the scene where we will potentially be drilling for natural gas here in Coppell. Many questions have been asked regarding the effects of drilling on the water system in Coppell and also on the potential threat to our precious wildlife here in Coppell. It could affect many animals, including the cattle that live here. Thanks. Now back to you, Haley.
According to our professional, drilling for natural gas in Coppell is very beneficial for our economy. In the upcoming months, we will see whether or not our community members are in agreement with this.
In your work with natural gas, have you ever been in a situation where your drilling had a negative impact on the water source?
No.
Are there any regulations that your company takes to ensure that the water is not affected?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, every state where drilling takes place has either a set of state regulations, or if the state doesn't regulate the drilling, then the federal government does, the EPA.
Oh, okay.
And we operate in 5 different states, and we have both state and federal regulations that we follow to protect groundwater.
Okay. And so, have you ever seen or heard of any instances where, like, right precautions were not fully taken?
I have. I've seen wells that were either neglected and developed leaks and caused problems, or they were improperly engineered and encountered high pressure zones that they could not control, and the well would blow out.
Oh my.
And in a blowout, it is possible to have gas escape into a water-bearing formation.
Does this, like, sort of thing happen often?
Not very often. In
Okay.
fact, it's very, very rare. And the technology in drilling has advanced to the extent that it's really hard for it to happen. A lot of serious, or a series of circumstances have to sort of line up for it to happen. In most cases, there are multiple safety features and engineered processes in drilling a well that will prevent that from occurring.
Okay. And recently we have learned that there have been instances of not disposing, like, the chemicals that are put into these wells properly, because they put them, like, near the site in the ground. Does this, like, happen often?
There are again state and federal regulations that mandate how waste products are disposed. In the case of oil and gas drilling, there are exemptions granted that allow drilling operators to be exempt from certain waste requirements, disposal requirements. It's called the oil and gas exemption, just in general terms, and it allows waste to be treated like a Class 2 waste. Class 2 is generally considered a much safer type material than a Class 1 waste. Class 1 waste would be like spent acids and lead-bearing solutions, things that are really hazardous, and they generally have to be disposed of in a Class 1 waste disposal well.
Okay.
But Class 2 wastes are usually much safer and they don't need that special handling. So there are cases where drilling mud and drilling chemicals, things of that nature, can be disposed of on site in a technique called land farming. And that's basically where the contents of a pit, after the drilling takes place, it's spread out over a piece of property, maybe a 5 or 10 acre tract. Then the operator will have to come back within a year and disc it all into the soil. For the most part, the chemicals break down. They're not considered hazardous, and this is a widely accepted practice.
Okay, I know we just had a speaker come in and talked about this sort of thing, and he said that sometimes some companies will like evaporate the chemicals into the air.
Right. Right.
But to do this, it's the chemicals that aren't very harmful to the environment if this happens.
Right.
Okay.
That's another technique. In places where it's real dry and you don't have a lot of rainfall, you can do that. You can leave a reserve pit open and just let it naturally evaporate, and then you can come back in and backfill the waste.
Okay.
Most of what goes into drilling mud is a natural product. It's bentonite clay, which is mined in certain parts of the country, and it's the basis for drilling mud. And then what we do is we add certain chemicals to it depending on what we're drilling through. Like we might add sodium hydroxide, caustic. We might add silica. We might add, salt, sodium chloride or potassium chloride, certain things like that. And even more so, we may put barium, like heavy metals into a drilling mud to make it heavier. But these also break down naturally when you landform them.
Oh, okay. And last question. With your profession in the environmental field, do you think that people of Coppell should allow digging for natural gas in our area and properties?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm a big supporter of drilling for oil and gas in America because part of the reason we have such difficulty around the world is that we're dependent on external energy resources, predominantly from the Middle East.
Mhm.
And if it wasn't for that dependence, we probably wouldn't be fighting wars over there.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm here with a community member within the 1 mile radius of the natural gas drilling, and I have a couple questions. Since your property is within the 1 mile range of the area being potentially drilled for natural gas, how do you feel about this?
I'm aware of the situation. I've seen drilling going on in the area, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Even though we don't get water from wells, but rather the reservoir, do you think there could be other effects on animals in this area? And what if mistakes are made? Does this concern you with our water source?
I haven't had a lot of concern about it. I figure that they have to follow the standards that are required and that they should be following them, but I guess there are potential for problems.
Are you aware of the process and chemicals used to do the fracking process?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Alright. It's been said that sometimes companies will take out all of the chemicals and put them into the ground once they are at the site. Are you aware of the potential effects that this could have on your community?
No, I'm not.
What would your decisions be when asked to drill under your property? How did you come to this decision?
I would be interested in it if I could make some money from it, but I probably should do a little research to see any potential problems because I'm not aware of what the problems are.
How do you think the drilling should be regulated for those who don't want their property to be drilled under?
Yeah, that would make it more difficult. If some say yes and some say no, I guess they have to follow that, so I don't know.
But how would you know if you said no?
Yeah, that's true.
Alright, well thank you.
Thanks for tuning in and keep on watching for future news of this topic.